Second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner McCoy?
Yes.
Commissioner Botel?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item, Madam Clerk. Our next item is the Berkeley Landing Project update.
Yes. Madam Chair, at this particular time, I'd like to have Ms. Anita Jenkins, Neighborhood Services Director, introduce this item, and then we will turn it over to the folks from Berkeley Landing to present.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Lanier and Commissioners. I'm very happy to bring you a project update for the Berkeley Landing Project. And just to give you a little background summary, on October 8th, 2020, the board deemed the Wendover Pinnacle team the successful applicant for a local government area of opportunity funding contribution loan or grant in the amount of $640,000. Which was necessary to apply for housing credits in the RFA 2020-2021 cycle. The subsidy award is conditioned upon the award of tax credits to this group for the Berkeley Landing project. Additionally, the subsidy is to be used for the development of rental housing units affordable to residents with incomes of more than 80% of area median income and not dispersed until closing of the entire transaction. Staff is pleased to present the following update. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge the excellent collaboration and support from the Development Services Department. This effort has been led by Ms. Mary Savage Dunham with support from Mr. Clarence Sermon, Mr. Terrence Bailey, our city engineer, Mr. Scott Evans, the planning director for the CRA, and of course, Mr. Jonathan Evans. And without their support and collaboration, we would not be here presenting this to you. Just to give you a little project description and additional background, this project is a proposed new development adjacent to the Park Manor neighborhood of Rivera Beach. This proposed development will add approximately $31+ million in development value on a property that is assessed at $970,030. The project would generate an estimated $257,786 of ad valorem tax revenue. The current status for Berkeley Landing. We're happy to tell you that the Pinnacle Group has been successful in securing an allocation of housing credits. Additionally, Pinnacle has been successful in acquiring total site control. They have gone through 2 rounds of review with all city disciplines on the site plan, plat and rezoning, a section of the site to create a unified zoning for the entire development. They are presenting to the CRA in Planning and Zoning tonight, and hopefully the project will be before the City Council in September or by early October at the latest. The developers have begun to apply for horizontal permits, such as through the South Florida Water Management District, DEP, for traffic concurrency, and codifying the FDOT approval for the driveway connection on US 1. Their design team is working towards construction document completion. They are commencing local recruitment outreach and efforts for construction to happen in early October. They are working, and I've just been given an update tonight that they will give you, but working on a selection for the equity investor and debt providers for this development. They are targeting a closing and commencement of construction in the middle of the first quarter 2022. Berkeley Landing is, as proposed, will have 112 multifamily rental units. of which 110 affordable and income-restricted units and 2 market-rate units, which they anticipate pairing with the 2 proposed live-work lofts. Berkeley Landing will contain 28 one-bedroom units, 62 two-bedroom units, and 22 three-bedroom units set aside at varying income levels ranging from 30% to 80% of area median income. As I said, the total project development is anticipated to be in excess of $31 million. In your write-up, we've given you a detailed projected timeline that's laid out according to function. And tonight, our next step is to have Pinnacle present the project and give you a more detailed status update. Although no action is required at this time, we wanted, as we promised, to bring you some good news tonight. Mr. Tim Wheat of Pinnacle is here to give you a more detailed update. And I will ask if there are any questions at this point, or if we're able to invite Mr. Wheat up.
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead. You want to go now? Or you want to wait for the presentation?
No, I said I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead. Introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. With the chair's indulgence, may I take my mask off?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I'm fully vaccinated, but just wanted to make sure. I'm Tim Wheat with Pinnacle, and we had the opportunity to meet in October and discuss this very exciting development. Along with me is our partner, Kevin Kroll with Wendover, who you will hear from later, as well as others on our team, to bring you up to speed, as Ms. Jenkins did, on Berkeley Landing and where we've gone and where we're going.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you get the name?
Berkeley Landing?
Uh-huh.
You're going to have to ask Kevin that question. I do not know. He came up with that one. I'm gonna turf that one off to you. So, yeah. And by the way, the name is, changeable. We
Okay.
certainly could.
No,
we
I'm
may,
just
for
curious.
branding purposes, we can always do a DBA and come up with a new name. But
Okay.
thanks for
Okay.
asking.
All right, very good.
So, I want to just briefly update you about our team of professionals, all of which, or many of which, are here tonight. Kevin Kroll with Wendover, you've met, and I'm with Pinnacle. And Wendover and Pinnacle are 50-50 partners, and we're both standard bearers on affordable and workforce housing in Florida. Wendover based in Central Florida and Pinnacle in Miami. And we have an office that I staff here in West Palm Beach area, and both Kevin and I are native Palm Beach County residents. PCDS is a joint venture that Pinnacle's construction company does with Dwight Stevenson, or D. Stevenson Construction, and you'll hear from Joe Sanchez later about our recruitment efforts for what we promised the CRA board in October to recruit local businesses to participate in the construction. And that effort starts in this very room on October 5th with a pre-qualifying event that we'll be hosting here for contractors to come in, learn about the development, and set themselves up to bid and participate. Brown and Phillips is our survey and plat firm, Palm Beach County based. Urban Design Studio is our urban planner, Colleen Walter. I'm going to hand the clicker to her in a moment. She's going to walk you through the development approval process that we're going through. We know you're going to hear this as the city council soon, so we're going to try to keep it fairly brief, but we wanted to update you on all of the components of the physical development plan. Jamie Crowley is here with the Gunster Law Firm as our land use counsel. Lucille Hinners with RLC Architects, another Palm Beach County-based firm, came up with this glorious plan. Chris Rogers with the Keith team is here. He's led our civil and traffic engineering, Foreman Consulting. On landscape, could not make it tonight. And Wendover is also going to be our management company, and Kevin can answer any questions about property management you may have tonight. So I'm going to turn over, I'm going to come back up in a moment after Colleen finishes, and she's going to walk you through the key components of our development plan. You may remember in October we had a discrete plan or a discrete idea about how we want to develop it, And we've preserved that through the development process. I want to echo what Ms. Jenkins said about working with the staff at the city and the CRA. It's been a very engaged, interactive process. Your city staff and CRA staff has made this development exponentially better. And I think you're getting 3 huge wins at it, other than a beautiful development and providing needed housing. You're getting 2 gorgeous Civic plazas on Lakeshore Drive and US 1. You're getting a dedication of additional right-of-way from us for Broadway and US 1. And then third, we're doing a shared entrance that will allow for the further redevelopment of the AT&T parcel to the north in the future when they come in for development. And we worked all of this out with your staff's encouragement. So we want to thank you for having such a wonderful professional staff. I'll turn it over to Colleen now.
Good evening, Chairwoman Lennar, Commissioners. Colleen Walter with Urban Design Studios. Lanier. Thank you. I'm Colleen Walter with Urban Design Studios, and we are the lead planning firm working on the project, and I wanted to give you an update on where we stand in the entitlement process. In April of this year, entitlement applications were submitted to the city seeking a rezoning of a portion of the property, seeking plat approval, and requesting a major site plan review. These applications have been reviewed by staff, and as has been already mentioned, there's been a lot of coordination back and forth between the design team, the developer, and staff to come up with a development plan that we all feel is the best for this site. Also, as mentioned earlier, your Planning and Zoning Board will be seeing these applications this evening as soon as we are done with our presentation here to you this evening. The site is located north of Blue Heron Boulevard between Broadway and Lakeshore Drive. The site is just over 4 acres, 4.1 acres in size. Although previously developed with mobile homes and apartments, it is currently vacant, and the properties surrounding the site are developed. The property to the north is also not being used, the prior AT&T location, and as mentioned, there is the opportunity for that property to redevelop as well, so taking that into consideration as part of the site design was paramount in the planning for the site. The property has a downtown mixed-use future land use designation. However, it has 2 zoning designations on the property on each of the 2 parcels. The downtown general designation is on the western portion, and the downtown residential designation on the eastern portion. The rezoning request is to change the downtown residential zoning to the downtown general zoning so that the site will have 1 zoning designation which will allow for a unified plan of development for the property. This zoning designation is consistent with the comprehensive plan designation and also consistent with the downtown plan. There is also an application in concurrently for plat approval. The plat will unify both parcels and will also dedicate the 2 public civic spaces that Mr. Wheat spoke of, one on Broadway and one on Lakeshore Drive. The site plan has been developed placing the buildings in the southern portion of the property, recognizing that the entrance to Broadway works best and functions in the northwestern corner of the site. The 2 buildings surround a cabana-style pool area, and the buildings have a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The project also includes 2 live-work units, which will front on Broadway. These spaces will provide for ground floor office or commercial space that could serve emerging businesses. And then the upper story of these units is a residential living space. These live workspaces will be marketed through the CRA's Small Business Incubator program. There are also amenities for the residents proposed along the Broadway frontage, including a fitness center and a lounge area that will have storefront windows facing Broadway. With these uses located along the Broadway frontage, this project helps furthers the goals of activating the Broadway corridor. In addition to the access from Broadway, there is also access proposed from Lakeshore Drive, and there is a parking area located to the north of the building and surrounding the outdoor amenity spaces. As Mr. Weed indicated, this project will be making a dedication of right-of-way along Broadway to FDOT, and that is shown on the graphic on the left-hand side. Within this dedication, there will be a wide sidewalk constructed with street trees, and the applicant will be doing that construction. The additional dedication will allow for parallel parking to be accommodated in the future along Broadway if the results of FDOT's study and their coordination with the city supports the need for parallel spaces in this location. So with that dedication, it will accommodate the future location of parallel spaces as well as provide for a wide and shaded sidewalk. Additionally, the property to the north, the AT&T site, recognizing that that will redevelop with the narrowness of the sites, the configuration of the existing medians in Broadway, and the location of access points on the west side of Broadway, it is assumed that there would be a shared access point that would serve both of these developments. Planning for that access point in advance so that if it does occur, that it can be accommodated without having a major impact on this development was part of the discussions that occurred with city staff. And the graphic on the right shows how that access point would work in the future as a shared access point between the two sites. There is a comprehensive and lush landscape program that is proposed for the site. It is tropical and complements the tropical style of the architecture of the buildings. It also incorporates a lot of native and drought-tolerant plant materials. It includes the shade trees along Broadway, as well as landscape buffers to the south between this project and the residential uses on the south end, and a landscape program along Lakeshore Drive. Buffers are also provided on the northern part of the site, and shade trees are incorporated within the parking areas. There are two public civic open spaces that are proposed within the project, as Mr. Weed alluded to, one on the Broadway frontage and a second on the Lakeshore Drive frontage, and you can see those indicated on the site plan. The civic space on Broadway is just over 5,000 square feet in size. It will include shaded seating areas and an art piece. Also, the developer will be dedicating an easement to Palmtran for a bus shelter and will be constructing a custom bus shelter in this location that will be complementary to the architecture. The public open space along Lake Shore is a little over 3,500 square feet and has a very similar program with shaded seating areas and incorporation of a piece of art. Both are accessible to the public and seek to complement and enhance the public realm along those right-of-way frontages. This is what the custom bus shelter will look like along Broadway. There are both internal and external amenities that are also proposed as part of this project. They include areas for both children and pets to get outside and exercise, a pavilion that will have a barbecue that will allow people to gather. Within the building are multi-purpose spaces for meetings, a lounge, and a library. There also will be recreational facilities, a fitness center, the pool, and the site will have security on all of the entries as well as surveillance cameras. The interior of the units themselves are very well appointed, and again, there's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wheat.
Thank you, Colleen. As Colleen mentioned, the art in public places is really important to Pinnacle as one of the 2 partners in this. It's a signature thing that we do in all of our communities, and we're excited to have 2 plazas where we can create 2 unique pieces of art and curate them. We haven't selected them yet. We haven't even decided how we'll do that. And we're certainly open to the input of the city and the redevelopment agency in doing that. But we wanted to just give you a little bit of information about what we do in terms of sculpture pieces, freestanding, and also in Miami, we're known for our murals, particularly in Wynwood. In one of our developments in Wynwood, we change the mural periodically. And the most recent one was the Miami Heat players when they were in the NBA Finals last year, and then we showed them all masked up to tell everyone to be safe because of COVID, and we have a lot of fun with that stuff. But you'll see, if you go to Miami International Airport, you'll see the girl on our side of our building, and also there are a number of other Pinnacle murals leading into on the 820 or the 112 expressway as well. But we'll have a piece freestanding at both Lakeshore Drive and US 1. These Civic plazas are to be maintained by us. They are dedicated to the city, but we have the perpetual obligation to maintain them. I think that's important for you all to know. So I am going to turn it over to Kevin, who's going to walk you through our news on financing, and then also just walk you through some of the particulars on the rents and the services that residents will avail themselves at Berkeley Land.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
if I could ask either Mr. Wheat just a few questions in reference to
Absolutely.
the proposal so that they just don't get bulked in at the end.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wheat, and thank you first and foremost for just amazing presentation, what you guys have brought to our city, and the fact that you guys are continuing to work with us. I loved hearing that our staff is doing a great job. I knew they would, but just for your organization to let them know and to let everyone in this country know that Riviera Beach is doing a good job with its development is what we want to hear. That's what we want to showcase. So thank you first and foremost.
Much appreciated.
The type of security that you're going to have at the project.
Yes.
There was a security that you're going to have. It's not a gated community. So
No.
What type of security are you going to
Well,
have? on
what
site?
we'll do is that we have, even though these are 3-story walk-up buildings, we have entries into the building that have a single long corridor that threads through the middle. So we have 2 points of entry at every building. One will be residents only, and the other will be residents and guests. And each resident will have a fob, and there will be secured access entry into each building. And then one entrance to each building will also have a guest call box, so you'll be buzzed in, like if you were in a high-rise condominium. So that's one feature. The other element will be electronic surveillance cameras. We'll cover all of the common areas. We'll cover all the entry points in and out of the development and all of the exterior uses, and we'll try to blanket the development where there's eyes everywhere. And in addition to that, we generally use web-enabled systems that will allow the Riviera Beach Police Department to access our system when they need to in an emergency situation or to download video.
Okay. And then the common areas, the park areas, how are those going to be secure, the ones that are going to be on Lakeshore and on Broadway?
Well, those are wide open civic open spaces, and we don't intend to fence them. We do have the obligation to maintain them, but we'll also place those under video surveillance as well.
Okay. And the Small Business Incubator Program, you said that you're going to work with the CRA's Incubator Program?
That's correct.
To create those live-work locations and to have those facilitated. Okay. That's it so far. Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Oh,
Thank you, Madam
pleasure.
Evening, everyone. Great to see everyone again. We are obviously very excited about the progress here for Berkeley Landing and the potential here for that it holds here for the CRA. I'm going to update you a little bit about what the unit mix is, if you will, in terms of the income levels, the rents. It's pretty much exactly as we proposed to you guys. We have 17 units reserved for households at the 30% of the area median income level, we call the AMI. Those are for a family of 4. They can be making up to just under $26,000 a year, and those rents are between about $400 up to about $538. And I believe these rents are also including utilities as well. So, you know, we cover all water, sewer, trash. Usually they are individually metered for electric, and the resident is paying their own electric. But that is the only utility. Otherwise, water, sewer, and so forth is all covered in the rents. And I should also mention, you know, we also pride ourselves in being kind of an all baked-in price. We're not the airline that's going to charge you extra for that bag, just like we're not charging residents extra for parking, for the refrigerator, all these other kind of ancillary fees that a lot of housing providers are starting to tack on. We pride ourselves on not being that guy. You know, what is advertised, what you see is what you get. No hidden fees. Then we also have 74 units that are available for households up to 60% of the AMI, or about $51,000 a year for a family of 4. And those rents are going to range from $884 to $1,206. And that is the biggest swath in terms of the renters. That's that middle range of renters who are looking for affordable housing and are overburdened right now on their housing costs. The other 19 units are for the households at 80% AMI. That's about $68,000 a year for a family of 4. Those rents are somewhere between $1,200 up to about $1,650 a month. The 80% AMI is really what we consider workforce housing. Those are your essential services personnel. It's teachers. It's emergency services. It's really what we see as the most widely underserved part of the population right now. You know, a lot of affordable housing that has been built only goes up to 60% AMI, and obviously these people are they're not able to rent a lot of the affordable housing inventory that's out there based on their income, but they're also priced out of market rate housing. So, you know, this is what's really unique about Berkeley Landing, I think, is that we have such a large percentage of units by comparison that is catering to this kind of middle income level. So what we have here is a kind of a nice stratification, if you will, of incomes, true mixed incomes. And we have also 2 live-work spaces that'll be at market rent to local entrepreneurs. These are those units that we have right up front, street side on Broadway. So they've got frontage on Broadway for a small business, and then they also are living there as well. So it's a residential / commercial space there. And I'll give you a little bit of update too, just kind of where we are on financing. We're really excited to announce that we've partnered up with Bank of America Community Development as our financing partner for Berkeley Landing. They are going to be purchasing the tax credits. It's about $23 million of tax credits that they're purchasing that is funding this community. They're also going to be the lender for both the construction and permanent debt on Berkeley Landing. And so, they're a wonderful partner. We've worked with them elsewhere around the state of Florida in CRAs and other areas that are of revitalization. They're very excited to be working here in Riviera Beach. And to that point, happy to make the introduction with the CRA and Bank of America Community Development. They would love to discuss with you guys any other opportunities that you guys have here. They don't just work with us as private developers, but they work with public sector municipalities and CRAs as well. So any other kind of ongoing initiatives that you guys have, they would love to discuss with you as well. But very excited to make that announcement tonight, too. And I think let's see here. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about our management as well.
Let me stop you right there. I just
Sure.
wanted to recognize our Councilwoman, Kashama Muller Anderson on the dais.
Welcome, Councilman. Good to see you again as well. As Tim mentioned, Wendover Management is our own in-house property management group. You know, one thing we are, and I know we've told you guys this before. You know, we don't consider ourselves developers as much as we are managers of the communities, and we're there really to serve the needs of the residents at the end of the day. So Wendover Management, you know, we have a portfolio of a few thousand units that we manage throughout the state of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And to give you a little bit of idea, first of all, in terms of the process, when the community is about 60 days away from opening, that's when we start pre-leasing. Already at this point, even pre-development, we're already working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, with the local VA hospital here. They have a large list of veterans who are looking for affordable housing. So we know that there's going to be a large demand there. We're working with other local community organizations, with the Housing Authority. So we already are developing these kind of lists, if you will, wait lists of people who are looking for new affordable housing. And then we get into pre-leasing. It's about 60 days out, and then we anticipate, based on the demand, being leased up here pretty quickly. And then getting into our community services and tenant services, which is really the exciting part. Some of the programs that we're going to be offering here: adult literacy, employment assistance, and referrals. We work with local agencies and local employers on this. We offer financial management and budget counseling classes to our residents, parenting skills, health and nutrition classes, life skills courses, tutoring assistance, and we also have an on-site computer lab where we have courses for children, for adults, work skills courses. It's important that this is a family community. It's not just reserved for seniors. So we're going to have all age groups here. We're going to have young families. We'll have some younger working, people just kind of starting out in their careers here, obviously. We'll have seniors as well, and a number of veterans who tend to be seniors. So it's going to be a wide mix of income levels here, as well as age groups, which I think is pretty exciting. And it'll bring a nice new feeling of liveliness here to Broadway and to the downtown core here. So kind of serve as kind of an activation, I think, for further growth and development. And I think this was back to the original letter.
Thanks, Kevin. Unfortunately, I'm the one that put the slideshow presentation together and not Kevin. So actually, those were the net rents, and I apologize for that. So we can give you the list of the gross rents that include the utilities afterwards. So I just wanted to correct the record and not make Kevin look bad tonight. So we've tried to stay consistent with the goals and objectives of your community redevelopment plan and your comp plan, and we appreciate the support that the city gave us in October in order to leverage all of these housing tax credits and all of this activity. So what we want to do is our last speaker tonight is Joe Sanchez with D. Stevenson, and as I mentioned, this very room is going to be the kickoff for our outreach and recruitment for local contractors. And I want Joe to walk you through our timeline and plan, and then we'll be complete at that point and happy to answer any additional questions.
So good evening again. My name is Joseph Sanchez. I'm President of D. Stevenson Construction. How you doing, Smith? With me tonight is Dominique Pichinat, who is one of our assistant project managers. She's actually a FAMU grad and a resident of Rivera Beach, and we hope to have her involved in this project as well. So I'm going to talk to you a little about what we're planning on doing as part of the team with Pinnacle. So at D. Stevenson, we have our outreach program, our diversity program is called SHARE, which is an acronym, stands for Seek, Help, Access, report and evaluate. During the first phase, the seeking phase, we reach out, we do outreach events such as the one that Tim talked about in October, but we also go through databases, we go through our different chambers, we go through different organizations to make sure we mine those resources to find out where those contractors are and whether we're available for them. And the same thing we do with the job fairs and make sure we reach out to different sources such as CareerSource to make sure we identify individuals who will be interested in working on our project. In the second phase, in the help phase, we help them with pre-qualification. So we want to make sure we walk them through the process so there's no barriers for them to participate on the project. We, if necessary, go through certification processes. If the city has one, if there's not one, we'll help them get certified with other agencies. So, because we don't want them just to work on our project, we want them to work on multiple projects they could possibly have opportunity to work on. And then for the individuals, we also go do career readiness training and things such as that with the Urban League and others. We want to make sure that the individuals get the OSHA 10-hour certifications. That's going to make them attractive to contractors and wanting to hire them because they're safety minded. In the third phase, we provide access. We provide access to them to the bid documents as early as possible. We provide access to our professionals, to our estimators, to our bonding companies, to our lenders, and to others. We want to make sure, again, that they have the resources and the tools available to them to be successful. We want to make sure that they have that information early so they can make the arrangements with other contractors, other vendors, suppliers, get lines of credit, whatever it is that's necessary so they're ready. Once we move into the construction phase, we report. Even before we move into the construction phase, we start reporting. So we'll do periodic reports to let you know how we're doing. We'll demonstrate our efforts for outreach, and then we actually provide information about exactly how many firms have we gone out to bid with, who responded to the bids, who's been contracted, the payments that we made to them. All that information will be available to you. And then in the last phase, the E is for evaluate. So we evaluate our own performance. We make sure that we are doing what we said we're going to do, that our project management staff are actually following through, our estimators are following through. And then we make sure that the contractors, both the minority and non-minority contractors, the local and non-local, are living up to their obligations to each other and to us to make sure that we're being successful. So we put together a timeline for MWBE. So we mentioned in October we're going to have an outreach event. Then that's followed up with a database mining in November through February. We advertise for pre-qualification. That starts immediately in October. So we want to make sure we get folks pre-qualified with us. Construction start, we're looking at an April time frame for us to start construction. We have different conferences with trade associations, and as I mentioned, the Black Chamber is one, Minority Builders Coalition, and others. We do the pre-qualification process all the way down through. We do technical assistance workshops. We do one-on-one bid meetings with the bidders. We do bid debriefings to let folks know how did they do with the bids, if they could have done better in one area. We do surveys of the firms that are participating, and then we do internal and external principal meetings, both within our organization, the joint venture, and also with you as our client to get your feedback on a periodic basis to make sure that you're satisfied with what's going on during the course of the project and not waiting to the end of the project. So this is an example of the kind of data that we collect. We identify who the potential subcontractors are, what trades they're in, who the contact people are, whether they're certified with us or they're not certified or pre-qualified. And we get that information and put that together to make sure that we have a way to meet our goals. So we're going to be working with the Black Chamber of Commerce on this project as well. They're going to be helping us out with preparing flyers, distributing to their mailing list, coordinating the outreach event, staffing the event, helping to facilitate the different meetings and doing surveying participants. And on the workforce side, they're also going to do the flyers and coordinating with CareerSource, organizing the job fair and staffing the event as well. And then Dee Stevenson is going to be partnering with both Pinnacle and with the Black Chamber to do the services that you see listed up here, both for local business participation and for local workforce participation. So all along the run, we're going to work all along the course of the project. We're working hand in hand to make sure we're providing the services and the information that is necessary. So with that, turn it back over to you, Tim.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you. I am so excited about this project for so many reasons. We know we're desperately in need of workforce housing, and this provides some beautiful solutions to that. But I'm also excited about from the point of view of the workforce development work that I've been doing. So I don't know if the developers are aware that we have a workforce development task force in Riviera Beach, and I would be happy to assist in any way in terms of the work that you need to do to get the greatest number of people in Riviera Beach working on this project.
This is Tim Wheat with Pinnacle, duly noted, and one of the things that we'll do with Joe's help is once we get our subcontractor base nailed down, before or even right after we break ground, we'll have a job fair, and we'll want to coordinate that in an appropriate fashion, because it's one thing to get the contractors involved, it's entirely another thing to get the individual workers and people employed in the city and working on the development. And it's good business for us. It really is in very many ways.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. The R and share, the reports. How often will you guys be reporting to us about updates for the status of local participation, the contractors, everything that's going to be happening? What's going to be the timeline on those reports?
So that's it's up to the CRA and you. How do you want that done? We've done everything from monthly reports to quarterly reports to semi-annual reports. So whatever works best for you, we're prepared to do that for you.
Because I'm not sure if you've followed, but our focus has been local and minority participation.
Right.
Our goal is to make sure that we stay consistent with giving opportunities for our local residents. As my colleague, Dr. Botel, stated, we want to make sure that we're empowering our residents. All the funds and dollars that are being spent in our city, we want to keep as much as possible in our city.
Absolutely.
So those monthly reports would be as much needed as possible. I think that we want to see that we're working with the locals, that we're giving them an opportunity. And I'm excited about the October 4th event for the local participation. I do have a question for staff. This may be for Mr. Evans. Would it be, or even Mr. Smith, we do have a sheltered market within our procurement. We have a few different organizations that we work with electrical and with construction. Would those be markets that they could start with or work with to facilitate local participation? Are these organizations that they can reach directly out to? How do we provide them with the list of the locals that we currently work with the city that we have currently under contract?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
We can provide them with a list of local vendors and those that have filled out a vendor application, and then they can go through that list and obtain the services that they're needed for their particular project.
And to that point, if we can get the information or have our procurement team or have somebody from our city manager staff participate with this October 5th, I think the best way is to work together with our partners that are developing here to bring those businesses to the table to say, okay, these are businesses, these are organizations, let's get them registered, let's get these vendors that may not be registered with the city actually signed up, and just work together to reach under every rock and pull every person from the city and give them an opportunity to work on this project, and then hopefully the expansion of phase 2 once we get to that level. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, based on your familiarity with the availability of MBEs, what is your estimated goal in terms of participation for primes and for subs?
When we came before you in October, we said our goal was 25%.
25%?
Correct.
Okay.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Can we try to beat that?
We'll
That's what I had.
make best efforts to
If we can
to
do our
even-
very best.
to
because
outperform.
That was one of the things when we brought in this team and we said that we wanted to work with Pinnacle and these organizations. Our focus was going to be the locals, was going to be the minority, was going to be our SBEs, our MBEs, WMBEs. If we can beat that and exceed that, in addition to giving rave reviews to our staff, in addition to you letting them know that they're doing everything necessary with getting this groundbreaking as soon as possible, with giving affordable workforce housing to our residents, and then also giving our locals the opportunity to participate in developing it so they can actually feel a part of the project, that would be phenomenal for us, and we'd be ecstatic. So that'd be the best thing if you can bring that to the table. 25% is an expectation. If we can far exceed that, that's what we want to see.
We will make best efforts, and
Thank
we're
you.
excited that you're excited for us to check all those boxes.
Very much. Thank you, Mr. Wheat.
Any other questions for our council people who are virtual?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
just one quick question. It has nothing to do with workforce development. I'm just curious, what's going to happen to that little parallelogram of property, if you will, that's to the north, northeast of your project? You have any idea?
I do not know. I'm sorry. We did make an offer to that particular property owner a number of years ago. We couldn't get the terms, but we don't know what their development plans are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Are there any other questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank
We
you
look
all.
forward
you.
to the development.
And we'll see you wearing your other hat very soon.
Yes,
Thank you. Stay well.
exactly. Next item on our agenda is
Rivera Beach CRA Audit Financial Statement, fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020.
thank you, Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair and members of the board, we have the principal with HCT, Mr. Roderick Harvey, that will be making this presentation.
Good day. Is it possible to share our screen, please?
Yes, we see it.
You can see the presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't see it.
You have it printed in front of you?
No, but we saw it, but it's gone now.
Okay, here we go. Can you see it now?
There it is.
Okay. Good day to everyone, all of the elected officials, appointed officials. My name is Roderick Harvey, partner with HCT. We are the CPA firm of record for the Riviera Beach CRA. Also, I have with me the audit staff, Mr. Scott, and also Mr. Thomas Williams III, who's the on-site manager. And at this time, we will have Mr. Scott begin our presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kemar Scott, the senior audit.
Sir, you're going to have to speak more loudly and more clearly.
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me right now? You hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go to page 2.
All righty. Hold on. There we go.
To the audit committee of Rivera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, we are pleased to have the opportunity to meet with you today to discuss the result of our audit.
No, we can't. We're not going to be able. That's not working for us. We're not hearing that clear at all.
You're not. Are you hearing Mr. Harvey clear?
Yeah, we're hearing it, but it's muddled.
I'm not sure. My computer's at max volume.
Okay, we'll try it again. Go ahead.
We are pleased to have the opportunity to meet with you today to discuss the result of our audit of the financial statement of the CRA as of and for the year ended September 30, 2020. Our audit was conducted in accordance with the terms established in the audit engagement letter dated March 1st, 2021. We are providing this document in advance to our meeting to enable you to consider our findings and enhance the quality of our discussion. We will be pleased to elaborate on the matters covered in this document. Our audit is complete and we issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency financial statement on June 24, 2021. Next slide, Mr. Harvey. Next slide.
Yes.
We will discuss audit results, required communication, and other matters summary. We will cover a supplementary slide supporting required communication and other matters. And lastly, we will discuss responsibilities of those in charge of governance and management and HCT. Next slide. And I will turn over the remainder of the presentation to our manager, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me good? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. Our audit of the CRA was conducted as of September 30th, 2020, in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and standards applicable for financial audits contained in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States of America, as well as rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida, Chapter 10.550. There were no changes to our planned audit, meaning there was nothing discovered during the audit that made us have to go back and revise our audit schedule, our audit plan. We issued unmodified opinions on the following reports as well as schedules: the Independent Auditor's Report, an Independent Auditor's Report on internal controls over financial reporting and other matters in accordance with government auditing standards, our schedule of findings and questions costs, the auditor's report on compliance with section 218.415 of Florida statutes, which deals with local government investment policies, and the management letter in accordance with rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida. At this time, there are no outstanding matters to report to you, and all of the significant accounting policies can be found on note 1 of the financial statements. We have listed as significant auditing estimates as the following: allowance for doubtful accounts of your accounts receivable, depreciation of fixed assets over their useful lives, and the fair value of pension assets and liabilities. The following are the significant risk factors that we factored into our audit planning. Management override of controls, meaning the CRA staff and the city staff set controls. Did we find anything where management overstepped those controls to push through a transaction? Revenue recognition, meaning when was the revenue recorded in its proper period, as well as sections 163.387 parentheses 6 and 7 of Florida statutes, which mainly deals with the handling of funds received from the state, whether or not it was expensed properly and whether or not it was handled properly at the end of the year. The following 3 GASBs became into effect for the CRA during the year. You'll see GASB 84, which deals with fiduciary activities, GASB 88, which deals with certain disclosures related to debt, and GASB 90, which deals with majority equity interest, but none of those had any financial statement effects for the CRA during the year. There were no uncorrected misstatements, as well as various adjusting entries that were found throughout the audit. They had all been made, so there are no uncorrected misstatements at year end. And we do believe that there were no financial statement presentation or disclosure admissions. There were no control deficiencies noted for the fiscal year 2020. All the significant related party transactions had been identified, and there were no significant findings or issues detected. And this last piece basically states that if the document with our letters is going to be used, we have a duty to read said document to ensure that all the information is correct, but we do not have any other duties outside of that. This slide here, I'll let you read on your own, but I just want to point out one, which is the subsequent events note. Management did a review through June 24th, which is the which is the date the report was issued, and identified one subsequent event dealing with a contract that was signed after the date. You can find that in note 9 of the financial statements. And lastly, we believe from our professional judgment that we are independent of the CRA as identified by professional standards. And with that, we're going to turn the presentation over to the managing partner, Roger Carvey.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to ask a couple of questions regarding, I guess, at least one of the significant risks. And I want to bring this up because I've shared this with the manager before, but I think specifically my concern is the management overrides. And let me be clear, this is not speaking to specifically the manager or the CRA director, but in general, we have specific controls in place. And I've seen this firsthand, both from a consumer part of it and also as a member of the board. When we set forth different policies in some kind of way, we kind of ignore it or we move away from it. And I think more importantly, it really comes full circle when you can get the complaint on the front end, and then you can see how the statements that's brought up in these significant risks speak specifically to revenue recognition, which I probably can have an example of all of them. But specifically, I wanted to bring to the members' attention, we had the incident where there was the rental of the Clean and Safe building. And someone made the check payable to the city of Rivera Beach, which technically wasn't even the right entity. And even still, with the check, it still went against the very policies that we had, that it couldn't be a personal check. But then all of a sudden, you know, that became the new process without us even addressing changing the rules. For all intents and purposes, if it's the policy, then we need to follow the policy. If we've learned or believe that that policy is probably not the best, then let's take actions to change the policy. But, you know, between the Clean and Safe building and the Marina Event Center, I've seen two situations where there should have been a uniform policy, but they were treated differently. And it's partly because of management overrides and not having actual controls and following it. And then the other one, relative, not so much revenue recognition, but I got a call from someone that said that they had an outstanding deposit that had been, I want to say about 14 or maybe 16 months that had not been returned. And it wasn't until they brought it to our attention that we recognized that we never notified them that they weren't going to receive their security deposit. So it's like these kind of things that I think we need to kind of hone in and making sure that our policies are across the board in uniform, and that we have our staff that's trained to know to follow those policies without, you know, obviously there's possibly going to be a deviation, but specifically, this speaks specific to the management overrides of controls. And I just want to make sure that I'm sharing this to the members of the board and also to our CRA executive director, that these are here for a reason. And if we're not going to follow it, then we need to do an overall policy change across the board. That's all I have for that item.
Thank you, sir.
And I do have, so let me go back to this. So I think it's note 1 of the report. I guess I didn't understand this, but note 1 speaks to, it's note 6 of the report, and that speaks to the FRS contributions. I'm not sure I understand how is it that the CRA has this allocation of contributions to these classes, which I know the CRA doesn't pay. We don't have special risk class and elected officers class that we pay out of the CRA's budget. If so, then I guess, you know, I'm maybe this applies to the city. Is that correct? I think it's on page 29, note number 6. That should apply to the city because I don't believe the CRA should have that on their report.
What number you said, Mr. McCoy?
It's note 6 to the financial statement, and it's on PDF page 36. In the report, page 29. And it says employer contribution rates by job class for the period October 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and July 1, 2020 to September 30th, 2020, respectively, were as follows. And it speaks to regular, special risk class, elected officers, senior management, FRS drop participants. I don't believe that applies to the CRA because we don't have special risk class and elected officials aren't paid from the CRA. So it seems to me that this should not even be applicable to the CRA. And I want to ask that question, is this a oversight or error?
So that specific note, there's a standard for how that's written, as well as the city does pay for everything for the FRS, and then it's allocated throughout the CRA. So that could be where the confusion is where it is a standard note that goes into each participant of FRS, and it has to touch those specific tabs on in the note, if that helps answer your question.
Okay. I mean, okay, all right, I'll take your word for it. But I guess more clarification. Am I owed, let me see, 56% contribution to my FRS from the CRA? That's probably a better question to ask.
I don't think you're specifically owed, no. But this is something that I can take a look at. If we want to continue the presentation, I can take a look at the specific note. And,
but going forward, just as a transparency point, if I'm a member of the community and I want to look at the CRA's position, if you have something in here that says you contribute 56.03% of an elected official's salary to the FRS, that would lead me to believe that that's coming out of the CRA's budget. When I'm telling you, Mr. Williams, I think perhaps this should have been done in a part of the comprehensive annual financial report as opposed to just this one, because it would lead me to believe that if I didn't know any better.
If I can,
Yes.
to the councilman's point, there is a GASB which deals with OPEB, other pension obligations, and so that requires us to allocate. FRS also does an allocation based on the participants, and so while the city, you are correct, is the payer of the funds, it is a book entry or an accounting function in which we show the CRA's relevant portion. I would add, so in this case tonight, each of you in your elected capacity are sitting in as CRA council people, elected officials. At other meetings, you would sit in as the city's elected. And so we bifurcate a split in this specific instance, those things that deal with OPEB and or other pension liabilities. And so this disclosure is required, and so we reflect it that way. But Thomas can spend some time. We can give some additional information on it. But according to GAS and according to disclosures, we should disclose as it is listed.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
So I want to make sure that I respond to that. What you're suggesting seems to say, Mr. Harvey, that
yes, sir,
there's an allocation from the CRA that contributes to that, to the pension?
While
those elected officials, for instance.
So while the city pays the hard cash, that portion paid is then allocated, or an accounting entry is done to reflect city side and also to reflect CRA side. And so that way, and you make a good point, to the financial statement user who is looking at just the CRA, they should get the economic picture of just the CRA when they look at it. And so the standalone statements of the CRA reflect the true economic principles and the true economic values of just that entity, although the city pays it. And if someone reflected or looked at the city's CAFR, they would see the city's portion of the expense paid.
Okay, last follow-up on that.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harvey. But, respectfully, I can't say that I agree with this position, and for two reasons. Number one, perception. And perception in Rivera Beach is reality. And the last thing I want someone to believe, and I know at the last CRA meeting that I attended, there was this perception or belief or perceived notion that the manager gets a salary from the CRA. And looking at this is basically suggesting that a portion of the elected body's FRS comes from the CRA, which I know that is not true. So I would love to visit this gas standard or this gas rule that you talked about offline, but I don't think this should be in our report because there is no allocation that I'm aware of that the CRA contributes or contributes to the city or to our FRS at all. Because we've had this problem, well, I can say Board Member Miller Anderson was on the board when specifically the idea of being paid from the other dependent district, which is the utility special district. And I certainly don't want to give that impression because I'm telling you this, to me, just reading it, seems to suggest that there is a contribution that's being contributed by the CRA, and I know that that's not correct.
Well, thank you for that, and I would enjoy the opportunity offline at another time to discuss with you or any of the other elected officials, the GASB and the underlying, and look at or examine how this is reflected in the financial statements. You said something that was interesting, and maybe I heard it wrong. You mentioned that the manager does not receive a salary from the CRA, or is it does receive a salary from the CRA?
He does not. Go ahead.
Okay, he does not, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I took it in correctly.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry?
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
Okay, so we will move forward over the next couple minutes, talking about financial reporting, expense, revenue, and capital assets. And remember, again, this is for the CRA and for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2020. When we look at financial reporting, we obtained an understanding of the financial reporting process. We inspected the financial statements to be in conformity with GAAP and GASB, and of course, we performed our procedures in accordance with GAS. Looking at expenses for 2020, 7.3 million, as compared to 8.4 million for the same time period in 2019. We selected a sample of transactions significant and tested those expenditure transactions for completeness, accuracy, and the presentation of those expenses recorded. Additionally, we tested compliance with the listed state statute. Moving forward, looking at revenue again for the CRA for the 2020 period, 9.5 million as compared to 9.2 million for the same time period in 2019. We looked at transactions of a significant nature. We tested those revenue transactions for existence, accuracy, and again, the recording of those assets in the right revenues in the right period. We again tested to make sure that those revenues were recorded appropriately against the state statute. Capital assets, 15.7 million for the 2020 period as compared to 16.9 million for 2019. The main decrease was the result of depreciation expense. Our responsibilities is to express an opinion on the financial statement. Our audit also includes a review of the internal control environment, although we do not issue a statement or express an opinion on the effectiveness of the internal control environment. There are several types of deficiencies that may exist and we may flag as a part of our audit. There are two types. One is a significant deficiency. A significant deficiency is a deficiency that is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention to those charged with governance. The highest level of deficiency is a material weakness that is defined as a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal controls over reporting that there's a reasonable possibility that material misstatement of the entity will not be prevented or detected or corrected on a timely basis. There's also a reasonable possibility and likelihood of an event occurring with the financial statements. We did evaluate a management letter comment from the prior year. You can see the condition. Our recommendation last year, we recommend that the CRA review the financial reporting process and make necessary changes to facilitate timely preparation of financial reports. We reviewed that and we have listed the current status as fully implemented. We will note to you several of the responsibilities, starting with management. Management has a responsibility for fair presentation of the financial statements. Management also has a responsibility to design, implement, and the maintenance of the internal control environment. Other responsibilities of management is to provide access of all information to us, give us any additional information, and unrestricted access to persons within the entity. The audit committee has the responsibility of oversight of the financial reporting process and oversight of the establishment and maintenance of management programs and controls designed to prevent, detect, and deter fraud. Our objectives as your auditors is to form and give an opinion on a financial statement in accordance with GAAS. GAAS is generally accepted auditing standards. Again, the audit committee has oversight, and we also have a duty to report on the financial statements and any other documents associated with the financial statements. Several of these other responsibilities fall to us, the auditors. I will just go through a couple of highlights. To communicate any significant matters related to the financial statements in our professional opinion and judgment. To communicate if we suspect or identify non-compliance with laws and regulations. Also, we have a duty to communicate if we identify or suspect fraud involving management, employees with significant roles, and others where the fraud may result in a material misstatement of the financial statements. At this time, Madam Chair, if you will allow, if time will allow, we will do our very, very best to answer any questions that you may have. Again, if we cannot answer those questions, we will definitely follow up with each of you or all of you with said answer so that everyone can be apprised of the research and the answer. Again, thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Are there any questions from the virtual council persons or the sitting council persons for this presentation? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Harvey, for your presentation. And if there are any other follow-up questions, we will have council members to reach out to you individually.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next item, Madam Clerk.
Marina Village food truck opportunity at Spanish Courts.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, at this moment, I would ask that the Planning and Development Director, Mr. Scott Evans, make this presentation. I believe also Ms. Kristen Hicks, our Special Events Center Marketing Coordinator, will assist on this presentation as well.
Very good, Mr. Evans.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the CRA board. We're excited to bring forward an outline of our food truck program that we're proposing to do at Spanish Courts. And we've divided this project up into 3 phases. The first phase would take place from September to November. This includes a monthly food truck event. What we're proposing is a pilot program. And during the program, we would hold 3 nights, one on September, one in October, and one in November. And on those nights, we would have, it would be once a month, and we will have a large event that we'll market, we'll have entertainment, and that's what Kristen from CRA will present the details on that because that's in phase 1. While phase 1's going, we will design and seek approval for a 2-year program which would locate additional trucks on the site full-time. This part of this process, we're proposing to create an entrepreneur incubator program. And this would provide local business owners the opportunity to apply for the incubator program and to receive funding, training, and business assistance, including some potential capital dollars to either fix up an existing truck or perhaps buy a new one as a contribution towards that. And then that process, so the program will bring to you for your approval, and then we would issue it to the business community, and then we'll evaluate and bring those back to you for approval. So the 2-year program will locate some trucks on the site permanently. And what we would do is purchase some site furniture and put in some lighting that would really make it an attractive little area where multiple food trucks could locate. And we believe that this will help attract a lot more visitors to come, because when you have one truck, it's only one type of food, but if you know you can go somewhere and there's multiple options, we think that that would be very more attractive to attracting people to come there. The second phase will take place between November and January. So following completion of the 3 pilot nights, which would be one evening where we bring in a variety of trucks, have an event with entertainment. Following that, we'll assess how that turned out. We'll complete some site improvements for the permanent program. This would include water and electric. We'll also bring in additional more permanent type furniture that will be for the 2 years program, and make some lighting improvements to ensure that it's safe and provide sort of an attractive environment where people want to sit down and sort of enjoy the space. The 2-year program applicants would then be brought back in phase 2 to the board, and we'll ask for your approval, and this would include the applicants who have selected to participate in the Incubator program. So that would be brought in phase 2 starting in November and finishing in January. Selection of those applicants to that Incubator program, and approval of the final program. The third phase would be is actually the 2-year program, and we're just showing it's starting in January of 2022 and would go through January of 2024. And during the third phase, there would be some trucks that would permanently be located on the Spanish Court site. And there would also be a continuation of the monthly events, which would be every third Thursday under the pilot program, and likely, if it's successful, would continue like that. And that will be a larger event where we bring in additional food trucks and have entertainment, which continues to broaden the amount of people who know that it's there. And the next portion of the presentation will be by Kristen Hicks. She is going to go over the pilot program, because we want to get that started very quickly, and we wanted to get the board's comments tonight on the pilot program, which would be for the first 3 months.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if I missed it when I stepped out at the beginning, but is this all contingent upon the marina development not happening, or if we're going on the Spanish courts, how is it going to be 2 years? Because if we're hoping to move forward with phase 2, I wouldn't envision it would happen before 2024.
Yes, so this would, even if the marina project moved forward at an accelerated pace, we would still be able to get through almost all of the 2 years of the temporary use of Spanish courts. And for the 2-year program, in the final 6 months, we'll also it will be written so that we can end that agreement with those vendors on a month-to-month basis in case we do need to immediately begin clearing Spanish courts. But even if the marina project proceeded immediately and the board was happy with the current proposal, we would still have the time to run the temporary food truck before they got all their permits to clear the site and actually begin construction.
It will take 3 years to do all of that?
2 years, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Hicks?
Good evening, Chairperson Lanier and Commissioners. Thank you. I get to have the pleasure tonight of speaking to you on our pilot program for the food truck opportunity at Spanish Courts. This pilot program will help with research and development of the next phases of this project. And we're proposing 3 different dates on the 3rd Thursday of September, October, and November. And the food trucks would be on site from 5:30 to 7:30, and that allows people to leave work, come pick up food and bring it home to their families, or even go home, pick up their children, and bring them to the event, as there will be entertainment for each night of it. We will also be reaching out to the local Riviera Beach food truck owners, restaurants, and also Palm Beach County food truck vendors, and they will have the open invitation so that they can come out on September the 9th at the marina here we'll have a discussion about what the food truck opportunity is, give them the kind of the overview of everything, get their interest, and discuss the business and their business, and find out even if they might be a candidate for the next set of the program. And with this, we're looking at having 4 food trucks for the first event, 5 possibly for the second, and 6 for the third, based off of attendance for the events. And this pilot series, we're looking to have a team of 5 people that would come out and do the survey, and they would get feedback from the residents here in Riviera and also the guests from Palm Beach County on their interest in having this food truck opportunity in Spanish Courts. The metrics will be analyzed, and that will help us with the next step of moving forward. Some of the marketing that we're looking at doing is through the city and the CRA's both social media, through their websites, their newsletters, and also TV 18. We'll be distributing flyers at various locations at the Marina Event Center, Barracuda Bay, Dan Calloway. We're also looking at having it at City Hall and also the new library facility. We will use Eventbrite to get it out to Palm Beach County so that more people will see and get visibility of it, and also post on our socially distant supper club for Riviera Beach, which has over 150 people a part of it and seeing all of the restaurants in Riviera Beach. We'll also do a media release that goes out to various entities to get the information out to the public. And this pilot program will help us just get the metrics for the next phase, and as well as get ideas for businesses that are either in need of a permanent food truck or have a food truck that they need in a permanent place. Our hope is to activate the space at Marina Village, and I thank you guys for your time. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Scott Evans.
I don't have any further presentation for the board, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to answer any questions you might have and to incorporate any comments you have into the program, because we'd like to start the first event in September. So we wanted to present it to you tonight, that first pilot program. So if there's any board comments or questions, I'm available.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, thank you for the presentation. The pilot program, is there going to be a cost to the vendors for this pilot program?
We haven't determined what the cost would be. Likely, the first event, we'll be hoping to get a big turnout, but the actual cost to the vendors, if there is a cost, it will be very minimal.
And then what about the permanent side? Are you planning on implementing a cost for these permanent food trucks?
Well, the trucks that will be allowed to participate would of course, have to have all of the required permits from the state and from the Palm Beach County Health Department. And so that will be a requirement. Anyone who wants to participate in the Incubator program or the long-term permanent program would be able to, if they don't have those, they still would be able to apply under the assumption that they would work through that program to get all of the various permits and approvals that are needed.
So what happens to that current lease that we have with the food truck vendor that we have in place currently?
We wouldn't be looking to displace them. And when the permanent program does come through, there will be a cost The fees that I was referring to earlier are just for the pilot project for the food truck nights, but we would be looking to recoup some revenue rather, from the food trucks who are selected for the permanent 2-year program.
Okay, so I guess my concern is the preparation cost for the site. Is there going to be any preparation costs for the site for the pilot's short-term program?
We are looking at bringing in some furniture. We're trying to keep it fairly basic, like just rent some picnic tables. Mm-hmm. The permanent program, we would like to purchase some permanent tables that we can leave out there that are attached to the ground in the central area underneath the large tree. We would also like to put in some temporary lighting, so we'll bring some in for the first event, but we would like to put in some permanent, sort of some of the atmospheric string lighting that's up that you put over the areas where the visitors come and eat. I don't expect that those costs will be large, but they would be funded out of the Marina Village repairs and capital fund, right. Which has about $200,000 in it. And we wouldn't expect that the costs for like the water and sewer enhancements, the tables, and the lighting to exceed $25,000.
And I know that for the permanent site, there's going to be additional costs to prepare that location for food trucks. Are you saying that that's not going to exceed $25,000, or
we don't anticipate that it would?
Gotcha.
The food trucks will have to be completely. We would provide power and we would provide some water connection, mm-hmm. but they would be required to handle their own disposal, which means we wouldn't have to put in, sewer.
Sewer. I do have some follow-ups, Madam Chair, but I'm going to allow for my colleagues to ask some questions.
All right, very good. Councilman Anderson?
I just wanted to say I do like the pilot program. I know when we first put the event center here, we had the vision of having food trucks, and we didn't actually get to make that happen the way in which we were talking about doing it back then. So I'm glad to see that it's coming. What did you say about Mr. Willis's truck? How would that fit in with what we're trying to do here? And what's the status of his lease?
Mr. Williams' truck, it's leased out for, they pay us a revenue of approximately $700 per month. And I think it's a bit more, including the fact that we provide him some water and electricity. His lease is month to month.
Okay.
So we could leave that in place, which is currently how we are developing the program. And then build additional food trucks around him.
Okay.
The permanent program will come back before the board, so you'll have another chance to review that. But we were proposing to leave that month-to-month lease in place and build the permanent program with him already there. The temporary program, of course, he would remain, since that's just one night a month.
Okay. I like the idea. Sounds pretty good. Thank you.
Any other questions from our virtual vendors? Good Lord. Council people. I just wanted to say that I'm very glad that we're at the point of activating that site, that even though we are looking forward to economic development there, having it activated now will give us some opportunity for revenue and also for local businesses that have food trucks. Does the city know how many food trucks are even registered with Riviera Beach specifically? I think that would probably be a good start in terms of a pool. And then secondly, I think that we need to look at integrating a food farm to table pilot along with this. Mr. Evans, I'm talking to you, to have this pilot project along with this, because we do have a urban farm, and to have those foods being used at that site, kind of innovative recipes, healthy options for people, so that, and maybe even the urban farm itself have its food truck out there, so that, we can kind of show how a lot of the projects that we're working on are kind of going hand in hand. And I think that one of the things I like about some of the projects that we are doing is that we're getting different departments of the city involved. You know, the same with the car wash, with the reentry program, and with, you know, the different departments in terms of their fleet. So having the, you know, the CRA working with the urban farm to be able to bring that table, you know, farm to table type of atmosphere would definitely boost up in terms of healthy options for our residents. So I certainly would like to see if we can put those two together to offer some healthy options for our residents as well. Are there any other questions in regards to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just a few follow-ups, if nobody else had anything. There were 2 points that Councilwoman Miller-Anderson made in regards to the build-out of Bicentennial Park. When the Bicentennial Park was created and built, and we built this marina, didn't we originally create it with the idea or the infrastructure of having food trucks brought in?
Yes, the concrete pad that extends from Avenue C to the shade sails.
Yep.
That was anticipated that if we wanted to have food trucks or have events, there is some connections there for electrical. I don't believe there's water, but there is electric there, and that was intended to be the place where we would bring in the food trucks. And we have had some events in Bicentennial Park, and that's where we put the food trucks for some of our events. What we did talk about potentially doing some of the pilot program in Bicentennial Park because it was a formerly designated site. But we felt like because the permanent program was going to be located in Spanish Courts, that we wanted to build a following and get people to go to Spanish Courts more regularly. Because if we moved the temporary pilot program to Bicentennial Park, then that wouldn't be building as much, I guess, regular repeat business for the permanent program. So we did consider that, but we were proposing to the board that we do it all at Spanish Courts to try and create repeat business.
And I think that's just the follow-up. I believe another point that Councilwoman Miller-Anderson made is just we don't want to incur too much of a cost for the site with the idea and perception of us developing phase 2. We're trying to get that done and developed, and I know that Spanish Courts is a site from the proposals that we were receiving, and also something that was going to be one of the initial site developments. So to implement a plan for the food trucks, which I think is an absolute phenomenal idea. I just want to make sure that we can address that, because Councilwoman Lanier also stated that we have to have healthy food options. We need to make sure that we give our local residents opportunities and other opportunities for dining. So this is while we're developing our community, while we're looking at our master plan, while we're bringing in restaurants, we can give them healthy, fresh options. We can give them actual food vendors that they can come to in the numbers, in the masses, where they don't have all of those options throughout the city. So I love the idea. It's just the location and the cost. Making sure that we're making the very best financial decision when it comes to what we have planned, what development, because I don't want to improve the Spanish Court site and only have it operation for the next 6 months to a year or for 2 years, and we're spending upwards of $25,000, because for implementing the lights, the furniture, the water, and power connections, I know it's going to run us more than that. So I know that when we get that proposal, it is going to be more than that. But the cost, we want to just keep it as minimal as possible if we're going to move forward with this, and also taking into consideration that we're going to develop that site. So looking at other locations and options may be something that could be possibly more permanent, but moving forward with this pilot program. So I'm in support of the Spanish Court site, but we also have to understand what the cost is going to be. And I know that I spoke to Mr. Evans earlier about developing and creating the cost of what it would be for permanent setup, but really having a fixed cost to what we're going to have invested into that site for this short period. Then a follow-up to that is if the developers come in to want to do something with the site and they're asking for site approval, how does that work in regards to having food trucks there? Would they then become the landlords because now they're taking over control of the site? What happens with those food trucks that are on that location? Because they're going to need site approval. Like when Pinnacle came in, they have to have site approval to move forward with the development, with the surveys, and with the financing. So this is a very detailed plan that I love, but we just got to make sure it's the right location and we're spending the right amount of money on it.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
With regards to the plan that staff is putting forward, the more permanent solution will have a revenue component associated with that. And so our intent is that when we do go forward with the permanent option, that the revenues collected offset the capital expenditures to help facilitate moving the development forward. The other side of it is we are going to look to build in a component that gives kind of the first right of refusal to those that are Riviera Beach based food trucks and have BTRs in our community. All of them would have to go through that process, but making sure we're intentional about those operations that are in our community. And the other side, and to see about the possibility of facilitating a relationship with the urban farm to where even some of the produce that is utilized in that food truck experience comes from the city of Riviera Beach. And so we will work on the nuances associated with that. But once we get more into the details associated with the project, that will come back before this board for consideration and ultimately your approval.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any other questions from our virtual council people before we move forward? Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept the pilot project as stated?
Second.
Madam Chair, you have.
I'm sorry. We have comment cards. So sorry.
Well, before we do that, I was trying to get in. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm not sure if I heard it. Did Mr. Scott Evans say that the budget was?
I can't really hardly hear you, Mr. McCoy.
Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. So what was the budget? Did I hear 25,000?
That was the proposed cost that we would be looking at, the maximum for the improvements that we want to make for the permanent program. But that, of course, will come back before the board for your approval.
Does that include the marketing material?
No, that is the fixed costs for making improvements for the 2-year program. Kristen has prepared the marketing costs for the pilot program, and I believe it's $6,000.
Okay, what about site plan? What does that look like, and how does that kind of work into this whole thing? Because obviously you just can't get out and just put electrical in.
What did you say, site?
To create a site plan to do
a site plan.
5 or 6 trucks, like how does that look? I mean, do we have a site plan, and if we don't, what's the cost, and how long does that take?
We will prepare a basic plan that we'll bring back before the board for your approval. There's already a water and electric on site adjacent to Mr. Williams' food truck, so we would just be upgrading and expanding that existing power connection, and we will lay out a plan to show where the trucks will go, where the lighting would be, and where the central food eating area would be. And we'll bring that back before the board for your approval before we proceed.
Okay, and why wasn't why wasn't Bicentennial Park considered an option? And for the reasons of what I heard from Commissioner Miller Anderson and also Lawson about, us currently reviewing proposals for that site. So why wasn't Bicentennial considered if we already have that infrastructure in place?
Because the permanent program would seek to locate a cluster of trucks, say 4 or 5 food trucks that would be located permanently on the site beginning in January. We wanted to hold the pilot program at the location where the trucks were going to be permanently located to build a following. If we did do the pilot program in Bicentennial Park, that is an attractive and appropriate area to do that, but we didn't think that would be building towards the permanent program, which would be located on Spanish Courts, because Bicentennial Park is not designed to have food trucks permanently parked there.
Madam Chair, if I may add on to that.
Yes, go ahead.
Also, you run into a potential conflict if someone chooses to rent the park and don't want to have the food trucks there for their rental. So you may have a situation whereby they pick up and leave at certain frequency, And consistency is so important when these types of operations, if they know it's going to be there, that draws the following. And so our concern was having the operation start and stop. We thought having it a permanent location and people could understand what to expect, that it is more ideal at that particular location versus the situation where we would utilize Bicentennial Park.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
So what do you mean by permanent? Because I thought I seen like a 2-year time period. Are you saying that this is going to be something outside of that one Thursday a month permanent? What does that mean exactly?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So there's 2 items that are before the board this evening. One, to talk about the pilot program, and then 2, which is the second phase that speaks to the permanent location on the Spanish Court site. And so that is what we were speaking of, that having that location for the pilot program and then it ultimately converting into being the permanent home is what staff's recommendation is, not to have it go from Bicentennial Park over to Spanish Courts. We thought having consistency and uniformity in the site location will then build a following and then help spur the growth on the more permanent option for a 2-year period.
Okay. So 2 things that I want to say. So this kind of seems unusual because I think I just brought this up to the members this month maybe, or even last month. But you know, I get time and time again where folks want to go and, you know, start doing a mobile food truck operation on a property that they own because there's no existing business there. They're not permitted to actually operate a food truck on that location. And I'm not sure how I understand that we're doing this exact thing that we're telling folks that you can't do over on a city property, on a CRA property, but an owner can't do the very same thing on their own property. That to me is very much hypocritical. And I think it just shows completely how there's disparate treatment when it comes to being able to do certain businesses within your own community compared to if you have the political will or political favor to be able to do it upon selection of being one of those 5 or 6 either temporary or permanent vendors. That's completely unfair. That's the first part. And then secondly, I just don't understand if we're going to really court someone to do development, that we're going to be able to give site control and then simultaneously be able to host these kind of food truck. I don't know if you want to say temporarily or permanently, and really have someone really want to commit to coming here. And then even if you say you can pick up and move, I mean, what I heard earlier is the same thing what happens with Berkeley Landing. I mean, you have to have site control to get financing, and that's a given. But I just don't understand how we can, you know, even put that out there that we can really give someone, you know, site control and then still operate a food truck operation. And then the double standard with the food trucks on the west side not being able to do the same thing that we're doing on the CRA property.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
So there's no response? Because I mean,
you want a response?
I brought this up before, Mr. Jonathan Evans, but clearly you wouldn't be able to do this if there's not an existing business. How is it that we're basically creating, again, an exception to the code specifically for this? If that's the case, let's bring the code back in front of the board and repeal that provision that requires you to have an existing business. And I think from an equal protection perspective, I don't want to sit here and tell somebody they can't do it, but simultaneously we're doing the same thing, the same opposite thing on the east side of Broadway.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. When the last time that the City Council amended the land development regulations related to food trucks, they created the opportunity that food trucks could be located in the Marina Village area within a designated area. And the CRA board approved a resolution that designated the Spanish Court site as the food truck designated area. So that's that's also why we're proposing to do at that location, because the program includes trucks that would stay overnight and all day, and that's the designated spot for trucks that would remain.
Yes, I'm still kind of confused about when you say site control. The CRA controls the site, don't they?
Yes, and previous development agreements that the CRA has done, we give the agreement, when it's approved by the board, gives control of the property to the developer, but that doesn't actually occur until they obtain the construction financing and are ready to break ground.
Right. So my understanding of this is that we are moving forward with this with the anticipation that we're going to develop that site. That is where we're going. But in the meantime, if the site is sitting vacant, then why not use it for something until we get to that point where we're going to develop? It is given that we're going to move forward with development for that area, so why not use it now before we get to that point? And you're saying earlier that it may be a year or so or two before permits and this and that happens. So if it's a 2-year pilot project, then we can make revenue off of the land until we move forward. So I don't have a problem with that.
Madam Chair.
So can I finish asking my question?
What? Ask your question, sir. I'm not sure what you're asking, Mr. McCoy.
Well, it's not a question for you. So can I be recognized to ask?
I've given you plenty opportunity. Go ahead, ask your question, sir.
Okay, Mr. Scott Evans, you said that the CRA designated that area as a food truck. When was that?
Your question was, when was that?
Yeah, when did you said the CRA designated that area for food trucks. When did that occur?
Before Willis Williams located there. So I'm just estimating, but I believe it was 2017, 2018 timeframe.
So when you say designated, that's through some official action? I don't understand what that means, designated.
The code amendments that that the city did provided that the CRA could designate an area for food trucks to be located. So we prepared a map identifying the Spanish Court site as the area for food trucks for Marina Village, and then we brought that map before the CRA board, and they approved it, which made it the designated food truck area. And of course, it's referring to food trucks that would stay overnight, that would stay on site. We do bring in food trucks for events, special events, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Mr. McCoy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lawson.
No.
Sorry, Mr. Lawson.
No worries. Mr. Evans, I want us to go ahead, and colleagues, I want us to go ahead and approve this concept with the intent of our staff bringing back certain details, because we don't have a budget or a site plan. And we also want to try to have a conversation with the developers in regards to site control timeline of when they want to break ground and get financing and the impact with the developers. Those are some of the things, and exactly to Councilwoman Lanier's point, if we have the space, why not utilize it? And in my comments, I'm going to make a follow-up with that, because we have a space about 100 feet away that is still sitting with dirt inside of our marina. Yet we're building and going to develop our outside location, but we haven't paved and prepared this location inside the marina. So I do see that this is vital to giving opportunities for our residents to have food options. But we have something right in this building, and to exactly Councilwoman Lanier's point, we have space that we're not utilizing, that we're waiting on somebody to come save us and fix it for us, when we could just do it ourselves. So preparing these spaces, I absolutely agree. I'm not going to sit and wait on these developers to figure out if they have the money, to figure out if they're going to get the job done. Let's utilize the space. Let's give our residents some opportunities. But I need a budget. I need site control conversation with the developers. I need to know what it's going to cost the residents and what it's going to look like first before we can even go forward. But we can approve this plan because it's an amazing program for our residents, but we need the information before we can make an actual decision, because we don't know what price we're voting on. We don't know if it's going to cost us $5,000, $25,000, $100,000. I don't know what it's going to be to prepare that site. In addition to that, I also want my colleagues to look at the option of preparing this site here in the marina. at least finishing the location and having it prepped and ready for a business to come in that can actually be put back into the proposal with the developers and recoup whatever money that we invest into finishing it. Because literally, I'm frustrated when I walk in and see that there's just dirt inside of our marina. I see that we have a space that could have been utilized as a restaurant. I see a space that we could have extended our eat-in kitchen that we have with a vendor that's been here from day one with Rafiki Tiki. I see that we are talking about moving forward with a plot for a food truck, but we still had this exact same conversation last year to talk about that finishing that space, and we decided not to do it. So these are the discussions that we need to have. So my only concerns is I will support this as long as we can come back with some information about what our budget's going to look like and have a conversation with the developers in regards to timeline and site control. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
With regards to the completion of the space that has been incomplete since the opening of this event center, we do have monies in the budget for this fiscal year coming up to finish out the space and get it to a white box. Please note that the space was contemplated in part of the solicitation document that is encompassed in Marina Phase 2. And so that is part of, we can't, even if we were to complete the space, we are not permitted until we conclude whatever step in the process to move forward with that space. So we would get that space up and operational, but conceivably that is incorporated in the solicitation document that was provided by the entities that submitted. So we are going to be putting the money in the budget. The money's in the budget. Once the board approves it, then we'll move forward with the solicitations to complete and get the space to a white box, and then hopefully move into getting a vendor in that space to create a little bit of synergy with some of the operations that we have going on.
All right, very good. Thank you so much,
I have
Mr.
a question for that, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Evans, so then I'm assuming that Spanish courts was not included in the proposal. That's why we can go ahead and develop it into a food truck location?
The Spanish Shore site, the funds are minimalistic as it relates to what would be expended to do the development on that. We still, as the city, do have the site control associated with that, but the build out for that, it's a pretty sizable expenditure, and so we wanted to budget for it in this fiscal year for us to be able to go ahead and complete that. This is only a 2-year arrangement whereby the relationship with a restaurateur in that would probably be a longer term arrangement and relationship.
But I guess to your point, Mr. Evans, the reason that we've never developed that location here, and that also it was included into the proposal, was because recently we made the decision that it would be included into Phase 2 proposal that we accepted. But also Spanish courts is also included in that same proposal, but we're going to be putting an investment into developing that land. Even though it is minimal, it is still going to be an investment into developing the Spanish courts land, which is also still a part of the proposal.
That is correct, which currently has an existing food truck operator
right
there at the moment. Yes.
So I guess I guess I'm just frustrated, like my colleague, Councilwoman Lanier. We're sitting on the space, and it's just moving forward with it, whatever's the best approach, and make sure that we're legally protected. I know Mr. Evans has that in best interest, so thank you for budgeting that so we can get it done to that white space. But what is our intent and our plan once we do for that white space? And we can actually, after we vote on this, we can discuss that maybe in those comments later.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Madam Clerk?
We have Rod James.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep going to the vote. I'm so sorry about our public comment. Residents, I apologize.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Good evening.
First of all, I'd like to say goodwill to Council members McCoy and Dr. Botel. You guys pretty much discussed everything that I have my notes on, but I don't think this matter of the food truck should be something permanent. For the simple fact that food trucks are mobile; they have wheels. So, I mean, it should be something that's not permanent, and especially not at Spanish courts. Like I said, these are just matters of suggestion. I'm thinking maybe like Thursday or Friday or Saturday should be like a vendor night And 2 hours does not seem like enough time, for these food trucks to be out there. I think what we need a place where people can go and, let their hair down and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Another thing I would suggest is to kind of get people off of Facebook, who sell their food and so forth, kind of get a program to get them certified to where they can go out and sell their food at a local event, which would be something similar to like a food truck. Also, just as a matter of suggestion, maybe, the city can look into possibly getting something like a certified kitchen, where people can come in and prepare their foods and then go out and sell it. Another thing too is Bicentennial Park, I think, would be a great location for something. It doesn't necessarily have to be permanent, but it'd be a great location where kids can go and play, and you guys can have the food trucks, out, and kids are playing. Everybody's, sitting down and enjoying the food, different vendors that are out there. Or even another thing too, what I thought about was, what about Dan Calloway Park or Tate's? Have some food trucks out there. You got a gym in there. And in addition to that, while you have the food trucks out at Tate's, kids can be playing on the field, and later on that night, how about have like a old school dance where people can go in and dance afterwards. So those are just some of my thoughts. We definitely need to bring back more entertainment to the city. And lastly, the Berkeley landing, they did a great job with their presentation, but my opinion is that we're a city that has 73% renters, and just my opinion, we don't need any more renters. So thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Weston Russell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
When it comes to food truck, I had a food truck, and I've been fighting for almost 6 months to find me a space to put one. You can't be in a vacant lot. You can't be with a building that's occupied. Go to the gas station, it's occupied with a restaurant. Go to the corner store, it's a restaurant. Where do they want us to put the food trucks? If the city could find somewhere for us to put the food truck, a good location, it would be beautiful. Bicentennial Park is nice. Nobody wants to go around the corner in the back to get a food truck. They want to be on the main street, coming down the main street where they could see what's happening down there. Once a while in the back is good. Not every day in Bicentennial Park. Over there by the marina is perfect. So please make it happen so we could get something going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That is all for this topic. I have one general comment.
All right, very good.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
And to that point, to both of our speakers, our residents that came up, Mr. Scott Evans, entertainment for the food truck invasions, the temporary ones and then the permanent. I think that bringing in some type of entertainment, whether it's a live band or music or something that can actually engage the residents, even if we just do it as a drive up, pick up your food and leave, since we're going through this pandemic and we understand that we want to still social distance, but having some type of music and entertainment to allow for them to be engaged with these food trucks is a great idea. And then providing a location, because a lot of my associates, business partners, residents have complained about not having a location where they can actually register or get a BTR for a food truck. So actually a set location. That's why I love moving forward with the idea, because we have to give these businesses the opportunity to operate their business. But it's just making sure that it's within a feasible budget and making sure that it makes sense for the location, because I don't want to give them this opportunity, get them registered, build this up for 6 months, and then we lose site control, or we have to move them again, and we're establishing a plan. So even the option of looking at one of our parks, possibly at Tate's or somewhere else. So we could start it here and create the plan and the program, but making sure it's something that we can stabilize for residents, like our last speaker, that actually just needs to find somewhere to position his BTR. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir.
And Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Also, the intent behind this program is really to see who's out there in the market, establish the synergy creating an atmosphere. So certainly we will have entertainment and activities there that are COVID responsible. But we also are going to look to transition these food truck operators into a situation where they can consider brick and mortar locations as we look to build some incubator spaces in the future. So this is something that we do want to see roll into subsequent phases. And the value as it relates to a commissary kitchen, I think that's something that is an important element when it comes to the food truck business. And if we can work together, city, CRA, to facilitate that, you can then see yourself be the hub for different dining options and opportunities. But ultimately, we want to get them in our community in brick and mortar spaces, owning spaces, because there's a lot of value to creating that dining experience that we want to see in our community. So this is going to develop into subsequent phases. This is just the start.
Thank you. Very good. Let's move on to our vote. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
To approve the
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
No.
Commissioner Botel, Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Co-Chair Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Lanier.
Yes.
Motion passes with Commissioner McCoy dissenting.
And Botel out.
Botel out.
Oh, sorry, I must have been muted. Sorry.
Are you a yes on that vote or no?
Yeah, it's a yes, I'm sorry.
All right, very good. There's a 4-1 vote in favor of, 1 against. Let us have public comment at this time. Do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, we do, Chair.
All right, very good. Let us move to that item. Please be reminded that the CRA Board of Commissioners has adopted the rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the Commissioner Chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 p.m. unless there's no further business of the CRA, in which event it shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30, which it was, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located at the front desk and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. Madam Clerk.
I have one public comment, Mary Bram.
Good evening.
Good
Mary
evening.
Bram, Rivera Beach. Can you hear me?
You can pull it. Yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I was over to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, so I didn't get in here too, because I wanted to also make some comments about the food vendor truck. I totally agree with those trucks being on our prime redevelopment property here. And it's Willis, I know a couple years back, Commissioner Miller Anderson, she was on the board too. Is my question that I'm gonna ask, has he been paying a fee, or was he entitled to just to stay there until the city made up its mind what direction that they were gonna go? Because what I see, it is a vendor truck across the street, and his truck is over here. So if we're gonna do things orderly, and if we are gonna be unified, well, the other vendor's truck sees his truck is over at the marina here, and they're across the street over there. So what kind of business are we serving here? So I want to know, have we collected any fees for those years that, because we were supposed to get something for that rental space. So I want to know tonight, and I want that question resolved. how we collect any rental fees for housing that mobile unit there that sits on our prime property. And whether or not you all are going to proceed, and I came in on the tail end of this, but I want you all to better position where we should have our food trucks in this city here. Because if we are to come and build up like we imagine that how we can be, we just can't have in and all kind of truck coming in to utilize our property. Are they equipped to do all of these things here without us having to give them free rent? Are they equipped to set up to meet those criteria, especially in this day and time of era and what we're in right now? So I want you all to think on that, and I want that question answered tonight, because others have asked the same thing too. This agenda here, I mean, we just gonna have to do better with this agenda here. What I'm saying is, if these items are on here, you have the blues here. And for me to sit there and try to figure out where is item number 4, where is item number 5, or where is item number 6? Can we label your blue petitioners here with the agenda items here so that we can better pick it up and read it? Because when we sit and just go through this, I can't even find the backup for the food truck. So I know that things here is trying to move here, but in order for us to move here, we just got to do a little bit better with the CRA agendas. I know Ms. Lawson has often spoke about that as well, so I know it for a fact too. So those are my comments. I want that question asked tonight about that vendor.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
We're at the end of our agenda for this evening. Discussions by Executive Director. Mr. Evans, could you
Madam Chair, we have one more item.
Do we?
Yes, the Marina.
Oh, the carpet refresh. Oh, boy, stop me.
Marina Village Carpet Refresh Project. The acceptance of public comment is closed.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'd like to have our Neighborhood Services Director, Ms. Anita Jenkins, along with Ms. Christine Hicks, our Special Events and Marketing Coordinator, share with you some ideas with regards to new carpet that we're proposing and some sprucing up of the Marina Event Center. So at this time, Ms. Jenkins will make the presentation.
Good evening, Chairperson Lanier, Commissioners. I'm Anita Jenkins, Director of Neighborhood Services, and I'll be assisted in this brief presentation by Ms. Kristen Hicks, our Marketing Coordinator. We're here to present our phased refresh project for the Event Center. Our first phase was working on various art pieces on the walls to create an art gallery over the last 6 months. We have partnered with Artist Showcase of the Palm Beaches during the first part of 2021, and going forward, we're proposing that we put out an RFP for additional local artists for future development of this gallery that we think has done a nice job in activating our hallway. And thank you to each of you for coming out at various times during the presentations and partaking of the art and appreciating our local artists. The second phase of the project that we're here to present to you tonight is to replace the carpet in the ballroom, because the existing carpet can no longer be cleaned and refreshed to reflect the quality and standards internal and external customers expect. Staff went through a process of soliciting input from various stakeholders on the type of flooring, color, and design. We reached out to senior management in the city and the CRA, as well as our local residents. And I'd like Ms. Hicks to talk about that process, please.
Good evening, Chairperson Lanier and Commissioners. My name's Kristen Hicks, and I'm here to explain how we narrowed down the carpet samples from 7 options down to the 2 that we're presenting tonight. So our first step in the process is we sent an email out to 22 of our city and CRA senior management through a survey with all 7 options there. They ranked their favorite from least to the best that they liked, and the survey was voted on from April the 7th until April the 13th. These 2 options that were the most favored are showcased today. They are on the 2 easels over here. They are also outside in the hallway for, don't see it up there right now, the PowerPoint. They're also showcased outside in the hallway for you to look at also. From the next step that happened was...
Hold on one second.
Isn't there a presentation? Can Walter and them do it so that the people at home can see what we're talking about? No, you all can't do it? Okay. Okay, it's on the back.
All right, go ahead.
So the second step that went out to the general public, it went out through Constant Contact. It went out to 1574 subscribers, and that was open from April the 16th to April the 30th. And through there, we had 121 of the subscribed contacts vote for their favorite. And out of the 2 potential carpet samples, carpet 1 had a 58% favored over carpet 2 sample of 41.1%. And so we're here today to get your feedback on the 2 choices that we're presenting. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Jenkins to explain the benefits and costs.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So are they not able to pull up the backup? Because the presentation is on the backup. It's online. They can't access the online? Because okay, yeah, I think it's important for the public to know what we're talking about, because right now we're just kind of talking and we don't have anything for them to see. And while we're going, I just wanted to ask, was tile not an option? Is it because it's too expensive, not something that they typically put in a ballroom?
The tile is not typically put in there, and just with the type of events with weddings and dancing, we looked at tile, we looked at wood flooring in terms of the cost, the maintenance, and the use of it.
Okay.
And we came back with carpet tiles. When we say tiles, the carpet on the floor is not rolled carpet.
Right.
It's carpet tiles.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, as well, our concern was the acoustics. You would have to make some modifications because the building would echo a lot if you did have a harder surface flooring.
Shall I keep going?
Yes, go ahead until they try and pull it up.
Okay. And going forward, we are proposing to replace 6,409 square feet of carpet, which would include the Newcomb Ballroom and the Hatcher Ballroom. The Marina Event Center would be down for a proposed total of 10 days. And that is the minimum amount or maximum amount of time if we will look at doing both ballrooms, leaving one available for events while the other one has the carpet installed, and then vice versa. So we minimize the downtime of our space. Based on our research, we're estimating conservatively that the replacement will come in about $65,000, and we're allowing a 15% contingency/overage cost. We found with using this type of carpet that you need to also buy the matched tiles at the same time, so that if you have pieces or areas that you're unable to clean, that you have tiles on hand that you could pull one out and replace it and minimize the interruption with your flooring. At the time of ordering, most of the vendors require a 50% deposit to be given to the company because these are specialty colors and tiles. It would be installed in segments, as I mentioned, from one ballroom to the other. The company would be required to train our staff on maintenance and proper cleaning, including the right types of materials to clean the carpet. Once the approval of the project is made by you all and an order is placed with the company, it would take approximately 7 to 10 weeks to receive the carpet. And as I said, we need to be closed for a maximum, we hope, of about 10 days. The benefits of this program will be to refresh the event center space here at Marina Village, because we want to continue to make it a destination of choice for meetings and premier events. Our next steps will be to work with the City of Rivera Beach Procurement Department to assist us with the request for bid process. Staff would then bring back an item for approval of the proposed contract. And just to let you know the direction we're going, the third phase of this refresh project will be to do some painting refreshment and add additional greenery throughout the hall. So tonight, staff is asking for a consensus choice on the carpet pattern, as well as provide support for us to move forward with our plan of action. And we'll take any questions or comments.
Okay, I see it up on the screen now, so I want to make sure that the residents at home can see what these two different carpet samples look like. Any questions from the staff in regards to this item? Yes, go ahead.
You said that there were individuals in the community that you all had outside of the constant contact that gave input. How did you select those people?
So the first step was sending out to the 22 city and CRA senior management, and then it went out to the constant contact.
Okay, so there were no other community individuals that you...
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Are we in consensus with moving forward with the choices, the choice made by the majority for the carpet squares?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
So I think I missed the part of the presentation that said how many people actually voted or were in favor of sample one?
So there was a total of 121 people that had voted for it, and then the percentages was 58.9% versus 41.1%.
That was, you said 141?
So the total was 121.
121, sorry. And that's the total votes between the two samples, or just total votes for sample one?
That was the total who voted from the actual email that went out.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. So are we in consensus of moving forward with this? Yay, nay, maybe?
Good for me.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I'm fine with sample one, but I was just curious as to what the other options, what did they look like? It would have been nice to have seen what else we had to choose from outside of the two. But I don't know, like this carpet, I did not like this carpet, especially when you have weddings and different, it just seems like the color just kind of doesn't blend well, but maybe I'm not an expert in ballroom design, so maybe that's what it's supposed to be like. But I mean, I'm fine with sample one. I don't really like the dark color for sample two.
There is, we took the liberty of doing or having a setup out in the hallway. I don't know, hopefully you all noticed it right outside the door, where there's a setup with a colored tablecloth and to show you sort of the contrast. The challenge is that any color scheme, unless you get a generic beige carpet, which would be hard to keep clean, will clash at some point because people choose all sorts of colors for their table decorations. We just need something that's serviceable. And just to point out in terms of the colors on the wall, which we could change, if you notice there's a color scheme throughout the Marina Event Center that speaks to each other. And trying to stay within a reasonable budget amount, and also to find an attractive carpet that speaks to what we already have was a challenge.
Madam Chair?
All right, go ahead, sir.
I was just waiting on Councilwoman Miller Anderson to say something. I'm not a big fan of the carpets. I think that we may want to go out and look at some other options, and also some possible points of looking at tile, looking at other types of flooring. I know that the price point may be a little bit higher, but what are the options of looking at more elegant types of flooring? Because if we're going to do this for weddings, balls, the different venues that I've seen, you know, they have a real nice, like a tile flooring or a high gloss shine. I'm not sure what the price point is, and then what also that has in regards to liability, in regards to cleanup. Those are just certain things that we want to look at, but I'm just not a big fan of that design. That's why I want to know how many residents actually, you know, chimed in, because that's going to be difficult based upon the type of events that may want to happen, because the floor doesn't give that modern look. It doesn't give that real sleek, elegant look when you come in here. So trying to really give that exposure, because we have the high ceilings, we have the wide space, giving more of an elegant look to the room is what I would want to envision for this ballroom. So I'm not sure if that's something that we can look at with looking at some other flooring options, because I'm just not a huge fan of either one of the floors.
Did we look at, you know, like a single color with the design? Like just a solid color but had a design in it?
That's more of what option 2 is. But we can bring some samples. We did have a wider sample of carpet tiles, and it was narrowed down to these 2. So we could bring something back. If you want to see a different color family, we can get all types of options for you.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
To have the tile, I mean, is that just a matter of putting the sound boards up there along the walls? I mean, there are plenty of places I've seen with tile. Obviously, it'll be cost more, but we would just need to incorporate soundboards on the walls so that we didn't have that echoing.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we would have to look at, you know, the impact associated with whatever flooring we would. So there would probably be some type of modifications as it relates to the sound and acoustics and what have you. We are looking to make some improvements actually to the camera system and the projector system that's currently in the space now. So if that's something that the board wanted to look at all inclusive, what does that look like cost-wise? That's something that we can certainly bring back as well.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I really just think the carpet is like, just has an old-fashioned look. I know most homes, I mean, you're kind of getting away from carpet because of allergies and all of this other stuff, but I just don't think it gives a nice look to it. This, like I said, this carpet here, I never understood I never understood it, and I didn't really like it, but it was already chosen. But if we could see different options, and then if we could check into the tile option and what it would cost for the soundboard, that at least to be able to see. I mean, obviously, if it's too much and that's not the direction we want to go, that's another thing. But I don't want to get locked into 2 things of carpets, and I just don't really like those designs. I really don't. I mean, if I had to do it, I'll go with one, but I mean, that is not something I would have said, let's do that.
Okay. We'll bring you back some additional options, and with the tile, we'll look at a matte finish and a shiny finish, which the shiny, when you go to dance, I know, Commissioner, you're quick on your toes, but it's a little problematic.
So, or even
we'll
just
bring some back.
Or even just a single color, you know, solid sea blue, you know, with some duo blue tones, you know, something that maybe is just one color, you know, and then has some designs in it so that it won't be a multiple colors if we're talking carpets. Now, it could be wood for me, it could be tile, it could be carpets. I'm fine either way.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
If you can, if the board would be so inclined to also provide staff with some examples of things you've seen at other places, because that would kind of help narrow the range options that you all will consider, because we do want to bring it, and when we do bring it back, we want to make sure that we can be within the same ballpark of the board and bring that back accordingly. So if you would be so inclined to email Ms. Jenkins what some of your options are, some venues that you'd like for us to get some samples, we can certainly do that.
Mr. I'm sure he got all the design.
I do. And Madam Chair, to Mr. Evans' point,
Yes, go ahead.
that's what I wanted us to possibly meet individually or just have a discussion with staff to say, okay, these are certain designs or images we'd like to see, because I have a few ideas that we could possibly do, because I like Mr. Evans' idea of just beautifying and doing a lot of improvements to our ballroom space so that we can maximize on the venue.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I just Googled ballroom carpets, and there's a ton of nicer stuff out there. Number 2 is just dark and kind of sad looking, and item 1 is a little too wacky for me. I go along with the idea of let's investigate other options, because this is a big expenditure. We want to get it right, so let's look at some other things. There's some really nice things online. I don't know. We can look at not monochromatic necessarily, but certainly not something that jumps out at you with that yellow and blue. So I'm agreeing with the group.
Ms. Jenkins, I just sent you a picture I just Googled. You can look at that too as well.
So thank you for your attention, and we'll gather some options, try to categorize them so we can move this issue forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Discussions by Executive Director. Mr. Evans, before you give your comments, you can answer some of the questions from the residents for the public comment.
Yes, Madam Chair, with respect to the agenda, we'll put some notations in there so persons would know which agenda item we're on, so we can get that resolved. And certainly with regards to the food trucks, we are going to incorporate some entertainment and even some themology associated with it. So we'll be bringing that, we'll share that with the board, and certainly the more permanent options, we'll look at what things we can do working with each of the food truck vendors, and maybe they look to host the entertainment or activities once we go to a permanent solution with regards to that. But we will look at bringing that back in a more refined fashion, especially with the numbers to the board next time the topic is discussed.
One of the residents asked about the truck that was out there and the rent and this and that and the other, so could you speak to that?
I believe that particular vehicle is under code enforcement actions that are contemplated associated with that. I think it's the vehicle that's parked kind of catty corner from the Marina Event Center, because we've gotten some notations and some comments, and I think code compliance has met with that operator a couple of times.
But what does the rent?
Oh, the rent. Oh, I thought you said the vehicle. Oh, the rent. Yes, the vendor is paying the rent, and they are current.
Very good. Those are your comments, Mr. Evans?
Yes, Madam Chair.
General Counsel?
Madam Chair, I just want to give a note that
National Chicken.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
as a recent entrepreneur of a chicken restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, I don't mind the interruption. I just wanted to let the board know that the transition is going extremely well. Your staff has been tremendous in getting us the background material and getting us up to date on all the contracts. We've had great meetings each week to get up to speed, and Mr. Haygood has been cooperative in helping us get up to speed, and I think it's going well. And I just want to again thank the staff for all the hard work that they've done in getting us up to speed on this smooth transition.
Thank you, sir. Comments from the commission, Mr. McCoy?
Hey, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
No.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
No.
Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
Yes.
Sorry, I was just calling Dr. Botel on the phone to let her know I just tested negative, so y'all can expect to see me very soon.
I told him I'm going to go out tomorrow and get tested, so I hope to be back as well.
All right. Well, very good, sir.
So a couple things. I want to kind of I guess, kind of provide some clarification regarding the food truck operations item. You know, I don't have a problem with the food truck, but there's a few things that kind of came to mind. So first of all, you know, I can understand that it probably is the most palatable and the easiest thing to put it on Front Street, but you know, it seems like when we do this cycle, because I think I went back in my notes and I was on P&Z since 2012, I believe it was. I remember reviewing the site plan for Bicentennial Park. And if we already have that infrastructure in place, and that's what the intent was when the Marina Event Center was constructed and Bicentennial Park was renovated, then I just really am concerned how we always follow this cycle of having a plan for 5 or 6 years, and then when members of the board change, then we just scrap the idea and we start from scratch. I mean, if that's true for just a simple food truck operation, how do we handle real long-term and sustaining development? And you know, I'm not here to try to tell somebody that they did it wrong or suggest that the prior councils before us may have made a mistake, but I think if it's not broke, then why fix it? And the very idea of this food truck operation seems good in theory, but what's proof positive tonight is that we just directed staff to move forward on a concept without even having a budget. And quite frankly, what we've seen when it came to the discussion of selecting carpet in the event center, that provided more details, more information, more budget, more useful life conversations. Overall, it was more information about how we select carpet than about how we spend capital dollars for a food truck operation. In my estimation, we're talking about once a month for the third Thursday of the month, which equates to 12 different Thursdays at max 3 hours on a short term. I just don't understand how we can vote on something without even having the real numbers behind it. And that, for that reason, is why I couldn't support that item. And quite frankly, I didn't even know that we were going to be expected to vote on it. And that confused me too, because, you know, there is still this whole virtual delay, but I didn't even understand what we were being asked, first of all. But I know simply we did not have a budget, and the question wasn't even called, because if it was, it just must have came at the beginning. But this, to me, just doesn't make sense that we bring forth items to vote on a proposal on a temporary without even having a budget, but it so happens to be the same location of a permanent development site that we're having discussions with the developer. And I just think that we spend a whole lot of time and effort in voting on things that have no, I guess, long-term benefit to the organization or to the community at large. So that's my concern, and that's why I didn't support that item. But those are my comments, and I guess I'll be seeing you folks as soon as next week. So thank you, members and Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Botel?
Yes, good evening again. Just to thank you to people who came out to the Singer Island Quarterly Town Hall meeting, and thanks to staff for putting in the work and presenting. Our next Quarterly Town Hall will be November 18th. That's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. And I think that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This Saturday, August 28th, District 5 will be hosting a community forum. It's going to be at Station 86 on Singer Island. We're going to be discussing an array of topics, looking at opportunities for the location of the fire station. We're going to be discussing Reimagine. We're going to be discussing individuals and opportunities that we have coming up. And we're going to be talking about the conditions that our first responders are actually faced with at that location as well. So please, residents, please join us. It's 10 a.m. on Saturday. It's going to be very important that we come out to this location to really discuss what we're going to do for our firefighters there. The mental health forum event that was being hosted this Sunday, August 29th, is being postponed. I'm looking to reschedule that event to September 19th, so please mark your calendars from now. But residents that were going to come out Sunday evening for the mental health forum, we're going to move it to September 19th. September 13th, we'll be hosting a Broadway Business Corridor luncheon, and it's going to be a reimagined edition. We're going to be talking to all the businesses in the marine life, the local businesses, the execs, the owners, everyone on that location from Broadway and Blue Heron to talk about what's happening with Reimagine, to talk about the potential of development and growth, to talk about phase 2, and to talk about what's on the horizon. A lot of the residents have been engaging, but I want to make sure that we have the businesses that are going to actually directly be affected, be a part of this luncheon. So on September 13th, it's going to be at 11 a.m. right here in the marina. We're going to have a business luncheon, so all local businesses on Broadway. I'll be working with the city and the CRA to host that event. And finally, Mr. Evans, how long have you been acting as our CRA director?
I don't have the specific number of days, but I think the interim position was appointed August 28th, and then permanently appointed October 14th.
Okay. So I'm posing that question because over the past year, we've seen a significant progress with our CRA. We're having challenges, and I'd like for us to further talk about the development and moving forward in the right direction under the leadership of Mr. Evans. I wanted to see if we could kind of begin that conversation, because every time this comes up, we talk about compensation, and Mr. Evans has to be very clear. I'm not being compensated for being CRA director. So I wanted to talk to our colleagues and also hear from legal, what do we have to go through in regards to conducting the research with having our city manager as our CRA director in regards to his compensation to make sure that he can be fairly compensated. Because right now, with the feedback we're getting from our CRA, the city, the development, and the progress we're making, we don't want to have Mr. Evans just sitting here not being compensated for the time, because if anybody else was doing the job, they would be fairly compensated. So I'm not sure how we can have this discussion or what this needs to happen, but I want to hear from my colleagues in regards to having that discussion about Mr. Evans' compensation. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
I don't have any tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no comments. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.